those that know Troy and Andrew refer to them as either the twins or the boys. Troy, well, he was born first, which makes total sense because he's clearly the alpha dog in the relationship, and he still is to this day. At birth, they look so much alike that their mom and I color-coded them. Troy in blue and Andrew in red. They even had blue and red wheelchairs. The twins, they were diagnosed at a young age with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, or DMD as we call it. It is a neuromuscular genetic disorder that typically only affects boys. Until recently, though, most boys with DMD usually lose ambulation around 12 and weren't living much past their late teens or their early 20s. I remember back when the twins were around 13 years old, Andrew had woken up on this day with a cold and a low-grade fever, nothing to really be too concerned about. That is until around 11 o'clock that night, their mother called me at my house, telling me that Andrew's fever had spiked to about 103, that he was unresponsive, and that EMS was on the way. Well, I jumped out of bed, hopped in my car, broke every speed law there was to make it to Brockton Hospital on time. When I got there, I just remember a great team of doctors working on him, and they told us it might have been something called toxic shock syndrome. Maybe it came on aggressively, some sort of bacterial infection. Their mom and I, well, we hugged and we cried like little children. It was like something out of a horror movie. Well, not too long after, the doctors came to us and said, we think Andrew needs to be med-flighted to Mass General Hospital in Boston. Now, this is where the twins get their routine neuromuscular care. Mom decided to go in the helicopter, and I decided to jump in my car and go into Boston. I get into the car, I make my way into the city, and Troy and his big sister Elizabeth call me. They want to know what's going on. Now, here I am all upset, but I had to kind of keep my composure for them to show them that I was strong. But in the same breath, I was more concerned about Troy, because Troy is equally as compromised as his brother. And the last thing that I needed was for him to have a panic attack and end up in the hospital himself. I finally get up to Mass General Hospital. I go into the ER room, and there's another team of wonderful doctors working on Andrew. They tell me that his organs are failing him, and that it doesn't look good, and that if Mom and I want to call our priest, because it doesn't look like he's going to make it through the night. Well, Andrew, being the warrior that he is, he made it through the night, and he was put on life support, and he made it to the next day and another week later. Now, even though he wasn't getting any worse, the damage to his organs was so bad, we didn't really know if he was going to make a complete recovery. Troy, being the alpha dog, was blowing up my phone nonstop. What's going on? I need to know. Can I come visit? I want to see my brother. At the time, their mom and I, we decided, well, we don't know if that's really a good idea at this point. It was a pretty scary situation to be in there. Well, after about another week, and again, not really declining, but not getting any better, their mother and I, we had a conversation, and we said, you know what? I think it's time to bring him in. We were hoping that it could change something, but we also thought this could be the last time they get to see their brother. So Troy and Elizabeth came to the hospital. Troy rolls in his wheelchair, pulls up next to Andrew. He's crying and he's begging and he's pleading for his brother to get better. He's promising him everything under the sun. You can have my baseball card collection. I'll never fight with you ever again. You can play video games first. Just get better, please. Well, the visit wasn't very long, and Troy and Elizabeth went on their way. But what happened afterwards was just amazing. It was a miracle. All of a sudden, Andrew started to recover. And we're like, oh my God, myself, their mother, the doctors. We're like, did Troy save Andrew's life? And trust me, to this day, he often reminds them that he saved his life. I just think whether it was that or not, I just think Andrew had the will and the strength to survive, and it just wasn't his time to go. Well, 12 hours later, all of a sudden, he's taken off life support. A few more days later, he's discharged. He goes home, and the first thing they do is start bickering and fighting. And I'm like, music to my ears. The rest, well, it's just inspiring. At 18 years old, they graduated high school with a degree in design visual communications. At 21 years old, they decided they wanted to drive. So we got them their license, and they drove a van with a joystick. At 24 years old, they wanted to live independently, so they moved into an apartment complex with their best friend, Mark, who also has DMD. And at 25 years old, they were selected to play for the United States of America in wheelchair soccer. Super proud of that. And did I mention, they also adopted a dog named Bella, who was their child. So I guess the moral of the story is that, we take things for granted every day, like paying a bill or driving a car or walking a dog. But to them, that's normalcy. We use the word ability. We don't use the word disability. It's all about ability. The twins, they're my heroes. They're their family's heroes. They're the doctor's heroes and all their friends and everyone that follows them on social media. They have the power of the twins, and they're right there. Thank you.